Oh, me?
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Preview. I am your host, one of the hosts, co-host, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, Jeff Hartman. Joining me as always, Bryan Anthony Davis. What's up, Bryan?
Hey, Jeff. Good to see you, my friend. You're looking all shiny and great. So I mean, you look like you just had a shower. You're looking fresh.
No. Yeah.
Jay doesn't look fresh, but you look
new
fresh.
Steelers shirt and everything.
Check that out.
Nice. Yeah, how about it?
From the sideline store? Or did you
I
make
don't know.
that?
I don't buy shirts anymore. They're all gifted to me. This was a Christmas gift, so I forgot I had it. Actually, believe it or not. But anyways, wardrobe aside, Dave Schofield, co-editor of Behind the Steel Curtain. How's it going, Dave?
Much better now that I see that we're actually on YouTube.
Yes.
We just popped on there. Yes, Jeff has a new shirt. I have. Well, I think this is the second time I've worn this one. So this was on clearance from the Steelers store.
The Wang Hammer.
Yes, I'm so glad to see that Jeff is a shiny, happy person. And
what is that supposed to mean? Like I'm not.
He said you were shiny.
Okay. I was like, I'm pretty much always in a good mood.
For me, Andy Van Slyke
Your
is
Van
shining in the
Slyke
back.
poster is shining. Yeah.
Well, it's got a glare. Yeah.
Better the poster than your head.
That was my boy. Don't mess with Andy Van Slyke. He was the man. All right. Anyways, Steeler fans, welcome to the show. This is the Steelers Preview. We've been doing this for a long time, and the name, the Steelers Preview, in case you just happen to be tuning in for the very first time on our audio platform, came from we used to preview the upcoming game. And when the season ended, we said, what do we call the show? And we just said, why don't we just keep calling it the Steelers Preview? We're not previewing anything. We just kind of go over the news that was, and we talk about what's coming up for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I've been saying on my morning shows, if you listen to our audio platforms, which you can get us anywhere, literally anywhere, Pandora, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Anchor, you name it, we are there. If you search Steelers Podcast, you'll find us. I've been saying we need more people to rate our podcast. And 55% of you all listen on audio platform on iTunes. So just give us a 5-star if you like it, and then leave a comment. I said, if we get any new comments, I'll read them on the show. So here I go. This was from early in August. Crazy Chris, he's always in our live chats on YouTube. He says, I've been listening for the last 2 years. And if it was when the Steelers lost or won games after listening to BTSC, I felt better. No matter who's on the team, be it Lance, Jeff, Dave, or Bryan, who's bad, Anthony Davis, they always keep me informed. And be it the dog days of summer or cold winters, they help me get through the year. If you haven't listened to them before, give them a chance because they bleed black and gold just like I do, and I love their content. Who ride? We ride. Let's ride. Together, BTSC fam. That was a great comment by Crazy Chris.
Thank you.
Monday, Logan DeLorenzo.
Who is in the live chat right now?
Yeah, he said, Jeff and everyone at BTSC are the best. If you want the best Steelers coverage from the best fans in Steeler Nation, that's exactly what you get with the entire BTSC staff, no matter it's on the site or in podcast. Thanks for all you do. No, thank you for that awesome comment. Steeler stock. That's a new one. Feels like I'm at a Steeler bar. I'm sorry, a Stiller bar. Stiller.
Gotta say it right.
He
said it's supposed to be.
Yeah. In the last couple of weeks, I've gotten into listening to the various podcasts from the BTSC crew. I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to the stories and the insight by the different characters. It has felt like I'm at a Stiller's bar, swapping stories with diehard fans. Keep up the great work, BTSC crew. You're all making my daily commute to work much better. Go Steelers. And then Tuesday, Steel City Man said the guys at BTSC are just the best, and the fans in the chat rooms are like a family. We can all disagree in a friendly manner. Never miss none of them. Have hard time getting on live chats. Try as much as I can, but watch all the replays. Thank you, Steel City Man. So, like I said, if you give us a good comment, I will read it on the air. That's awesome. And that helps because, listen, when people type in Steelers podcast, we are second. That bothers me. We want to be first. So, all right, with no further ado,
let's first.
You're last. First, you're last. All right. Who told you that?
Second place is the first loser.
Whoever told you that was an idiot. Anyways, okay. Let's get to the Steelers news. There was a lot of news today. I want to start things off with the most recent news. This is recorded on Thursday night. This just happened literally a couple hours ago from when the show came on, and I wanted to get everyone's thoughts on it, and it was the fact that it wasn't the Steelers. It was the state of Pennsylvania and Allegheny County stated that there are not going to be any fans in the seats at Heinz Field at least for September. They have 2 home games. That's week 2 when the Denver Broncos come to town and week 3 when the Texans come to town. No fans, at least in September. Bryan, when you heard the news, which I'm sure you did, what were your thoughts?
My thoughts were actually, I'm fine with that. I'm like, this is probably, for me, that's the right way to go. I expected this. We already saw Philadelphia basically say that they were going to be doing this. We've heard from other teams, of course, with the Steelers for the opening game on Monday Night Football. They're playing the Giants, and that was going to be in front of no crowd. I just think, as far as safety, to get this nipped in the bud, hopefully. I mean, I don't care where you lie on what side of COVID. I just feel like this was inevitable, and I'm fine with it.
Dave, you're a season ticket holder. I know you weren't surprised, probably, but what were your thoughts?
Well, to follow up Barney Fife here, I'm going to say that. Sorry, couldn't help that. You got to nip it in the bud. Come on, man. That's his line. Sorry. Come on. How do you not know this? All right. So what was the question? Seattle has 2 losses. Okay. No. Yeah. As a season ticket holder, it actually made me feel a little bit better, because after deciding to opt out because they took away your ability to transfer tickets to another account, which means the people that I share, my brother-in-law who I share my season tickets with, he couldn't even get the season tickets to go. So they were just doing it temporarily to keep, the tickets from too many transactions having to be canceled. But I kind of was worried about that. So I'm like, maybe we better opt out for this year. So it makes me feel like, well, maybe it was the right call. I feel bad for those people that live in the area that have season tickets and haven't missed a game in years and years and years and years. And they've had the streak and everything going. That's going to end for those people. I feel for them. But I also, if they didn't feel like they could be safe going to the game, the decision was made for them and they didn't have to worry about that. So the most important thing for me, I just want there to be Steelers football, whether I am in my seat or on my couch.
Amen to that. All right, true or false time. Start with Bryan. Bryan, by the end of the season, there will at least be some fans at Heinz Field for Steelers home games. True or false?
False. It's not happening this year.
Dave?
Let's go true, just because it's such a long season. When I went to write the article today, I looked at it and I'm like, wow, even if if they want to try to play half their games in front of some fans, you're not hitting that 5th home game until the middle of November. That's a long time from now. So I'm going to say yes, but it's not like I'm saying with a whole lot of confidence. I just want to disagree with Bryan.
I'm going to say true. I'm going to think that they're going to find a way to get some fans in seats. It's going to be different. It's not going to be full capacity. I'm not saying it's going to be 66,000 large, but I think they're going to find a way. I know Art Rooney II is going to do everything that man can to get fans in the seats. All right, now the most important news this week, guys, was that Ben Roethlisberger put out a docu-series part 1 called Bigger Than Ben. And Bryan, tell me you watched it. I know Dave did, but tell me you watched it.
I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
Now, the question was going to be not did you watch it, but how many times did you watch it? Because I'm on 2, and I'm about to go to 3 a little bit.
I have the exact same answer.
It was so good. It was so good. I mean, you never get those glimpses of football in general unless you're on Hard Knocks. And I haven't seen any of these Hard Knocks episodes this year because I don't get HBO. But still, my gosh, you got to see so much there. And it was such a short, it was only 15 minutes, only part 1, by the way. There's more parts coming out. I don't know when, but there's more parts coming out. So you got to hear him talk about the 2018 fallout when the media was bashing him. That was the very beginning. You got some really in-depth stuff on Daryl Drake's death last year at training camp. And then the whole injury. Dave, when you first watched this, what was the first thing you took away from this docu-series? Because if you haven't seen it yet, if you're listening, by gosh, go after where this show's over. You're already on YouTube. If you're watching live, just go to search engine and type in Bigger Than Ben. And it'll be the first thing that comes up. Dave, what were your thoughts?
Okay. Well, honestly, my first thought that I have to say, and Bryan will back me up on this, is I knew his injury was bad before he did. Apparently, because he wasn't ready. When I saw him grab his elbow on that throw out to the sideline, that I said, Bryan, that's not good. That's a serious injury. I said maybe Tommy John, because I didn't know for sure, but I could tell that it was something not right. And apparently Ben didn't know that he knew something was wrong, but he never thought that he wasn't going back in the game. That was that was eye-opening. It was just what an inside look, and to finally get the details to what the injury was. I mean, that was 3 of the 5 of the flexor tendons. Jeff is the health guy, so he knows, being the health teacher, he could tell us more about this, that it's one from each finger. That where does it meet? Is it right at on the inside?
Typically,
of the elbow?
It's right on the inside. Yeah. When you get inflammation in your elbow, there's 5 that go all the way around the elbow. That's why tennis elbow and golfer's elbow are on opposite sides of the elbow, believe it or not. Because if he ripped those off, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
he's ripping off what is connecting the tendons. It's not, that's a big injury.
And he partially tore one of them his rookie year in like his 3rd game. Just
now,
so much information.
No, that's something that came out on Twitter.
That came out later, but it was apparently he did say it was. I'm pretty sure it said that it was 2004.
They showed the video of him diving into the end zone. I thought that was just a video of him. Video of a play, because they did that a couple times in the docu-series. I'll have to watch it a third time.
I am fairly certain he said in 2004, but maybe he didn't. So, Brian.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian. What did you think?
Do you have the final rule on that?
Yeah, by the way, Dave was on my living room couch. We were watching it at my house together, and he was all over it. And I was like, man, I think he's right, because Dave was like breaking it down like an analyst. So I thought it was actually incredible to be sitting next to him. But I thought Ben showed so much heart. I really thought he needed this as far as a PR type of thing. People.
What was that? You froze.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, so I just thought he needed this because his image took a hit years ago, and I think people need to see the Ben Roethlisberger that we've seen the last 7 or 8 years, and I really think it did shine through. Now, one thing I thought of when talking about injuries and everything was our Ike Taylor interview, as I go back to a week ago when Ike was on our network, and he said, "Man, you don't realize how many injuries Ben has played through.
Yeah.
He's played through so many." So I just thought that was interesting.
No one's if anyone questions his toughness in a legitimate sense, then they really haven't been paying attention. It's you heard Dr. Bradley say, heck, in that wild card game in 2015 against Cincinnati, he said he couldn't even lift his arm over his head. And then he came back in. That was after Vontaze Burfict landed on him on that sack, and he left. And that's when I always say he came out on a white steed with a flaming sword and won the game. But anyways, Ryan Cobrine in the live chat says they are releasing these every Wednesday for the next 3 weeks. Yes, please sign me up. I will say this, that I loved hearing from his wife. She's not someone that talks often or at all. You see other wives that are much more public, but at the very end, when she talked about how she told him when they were getting the news from Dr. Bradley that his season was done. His career could be done if he wanted to avoid surgery, but his season is definitely done. And she said, if you want to hang it up and you're happy with where you are, then I support you 100%. And what does Ben say? I'm not done. And then it ends, and I'm like, oh my God, this is just like on Rocky when she goes, I just want you to do one thing for me. Ding. Win. What are we waiting for? And the only downside is
I feel bad for people that haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Someone in here said, I'm going to go watch it as soon as this show's over. Yes, you will not be disappointed. We can hype it up as much as we can. We can hype it up more than Chase Claypool's been hyped up in training camp. Yeah. You still won't be disappointed.
But you know what? I will say one thing. You guys have never really watched Hard Knocks. Me seeing almost every season of Hard Knocks, this makes me crave the Steelers on Hard Knocks because it is really awesome. I know we talk about the distractions.
I said it would be great. And everyone laughed at me and said, no, we don't want the distraction. But the viewing experience would be awesome.
Good for us, bad for them.
Exactly, yeah. And you would have had like in-depth interviews with Frank Webb, and it would have been Brian's dream of hearing Frank Webb's voice for the first time. But so honest, I didn't want to get off on a huge tangent, but that was so well done. And
Frank's
the fact
that well, remember, Ben Roethlisberger also spoke to the media today.
He did.
So he spoke to the media after this came out. So that's where we got some other information from everything else. So the information I got from the two different places are kind of all running together in my brain right now. But it was also good to hear from Ben.
Yeah, and Dave Shipley puts $5 in the tip jar. We'll put that up on the screen. He said, I love Ben's answer today. They asked him on 11 on 11 sessions in practice who's been winning. He said one word, defense. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that. Since Dave brings it up, he donates $5, which we really appreciate. When you hear that, I hear that and say, well, that's not a surprise. Because I've always felt defense is ahead of offense and it comes to preparation, especially with this group being as veteran-laden as they are on defense. But what does this tell you? Anything else, Bryan, in regards to Ben's response that the defense is winning these 11 on 11 sessions?
That means that they are as powerful as ever, and they're showing up.
What about you, Dave? What do you think?
I think the Steelers are being very deliberate with the information that they are trying to let out of training camp. Come on. The reports on the first day was that if you add everything up, then the Steelers won 7 shots, at least had 6, if not all 7. So it hasn't always been the defense, but Ben's going to pump up his guys. That's what he does. That's what he needs to do. And I loved his answer. But at the same time, people aren't, some people are saying, we don't know about Ben coming back. Oh, there's so much, not even going to mention his name that ranked him number 4 in the AFC North.
Tannenbaum, that idiot.
Why would you say the name? I said I'm not saying it. Okay.
I knew there was someone out there that didn't know who it was.
I'm not even singing that Christmas carol anymore.
Yes.
I'm done.
Anyway, why not just give the props to the defense? Let the offense go under the radar. Ben even said today about Chase Claypool. It's like, I usually like to have those rookie receivers, see if we can have them fly under the radar a little bit. He's like, but the cat's already out of the bag on this one. So, yeah, he's doing well.
Well, let's talk about a guy that I'm going to call the Crazy Canuck. That's going to be my nickname for him. Like, they've Mapletron and stuff. Nah, he's the Crazy Canuck because he's Canadian and my gosh, this, like Dave said, and I hope people realize this, and I've actually been on the other side of the fence in terms of the media. The Steelers control every single thing that comes out, especially in COVID era NFL reporting. Okay, they have a stronghold on what's reported because they control who's in front of the media. They know I'm sure they prep them, especially certain players, with what to say and what not to say. We know that Mike Tomlin is a wordsmith and he'll never give you anything of any substance unless it's a very unique circumstance. But Bryan, we'll start with you. My gosh, Chase Claypool is getting a lot of pub, not necessarily nationally that I've seen, but at least in Pittsburgh, he is getting a lot of publicity. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think we're setting this kid up for failure? Or do you think it's going to be more of he's going to show up and really shock some people?
What we are not used to this as Steeler fans. We're not used to a rookie getting this much praise. So I'm thinking that it is genuine praise. A lot of people are excited about him. There might be some propaganda in it with the fact that the Steelers didn't have a number 1 pick and look how we did it at number 49. But it tells me a few things. And the number 1 thing it tells me is they're planning on using him. This is not a smokescreen. Because we saw this with Martavis Bryant. Mike Tomlin came out and said he's a project and you might not see him for a while. And he didn't show up until week 6 or 7 back in 2014. But they're really excited about this guy. And I'm getting excited because when you get that praise from a Joe Hayden, Ben Roethlisberger he's going to do that for his guys. He's going to blow those guys up and give them all the credit. Joe Hayden doesn't have to do that. And I know he's the leader of the team, but that showed me a lot of something, how excited that everybody is for this guy. And they think they've got a superstar, and we're going to see how they use him. I think they're going to.
Dave, what about you? You buying into the hype?
Bryan, I could not agree with you any less.
Oh,
meaning,
wow, I love it.
No, this is on purpose. Are they really banking? The Steelers have gone on and on before training camp and saying how they're not relying on any rookies for this year. They're not relying on any rookies for this year. So who are they going to hype on the offense? Oh, you better look out for them. someone they're not planning on using right away. That way teams are worried about Chase Claypool and not all the other guys they should be worried about. Now, is it really that extreme? No, I don't believe it. I don't believe that either. I'm just trying to give a counter argument. I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think you've either got to keep him a complete secret or you've got to overhype him. I like that they're going one extreme or the other. So chances are he's probably the middle. I'm not getting my expectations too set on him for his sake. I don't want people to think, oh, he's a failure. We heard so much about him coming out of training camp. No, I'm not. He's getting lots of opportunity because of some other receivers getting dinged up and everything. He hasn't missed a play in practice. That's something Randy Fichtner said today. He hasn't missed a play. So he's the one guy that's out there all the time, and that's great. And he's making plays. We also heard stuff about James Washington through the preseason in his rookie year, and we saw what happened in his rookie year. So I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess is the best way to say it.
Go ahead, Brian.
I think this begs a 15-piece wing bet, Dave. I think we need.
I would gladly take that bet, hoping I would lose. I would love to lose that bet.
You're not a wing guy?
No, I don't. I'm saying
okay.
I want to be wrong. I don't care about giving you wings. The last time I came to your house, I made my own wings and brought them.
They were yummy. Thank you.
Yes, they were. Well, the last time I came for a game, I guess you'd say.
So this is what I'm saying, Dave. I say we put the bet on it. I hope you're wrong too.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's really a problem. I don't think they do propaganda as much as we think they do. I think they're excited about this guy. Why talk about a guy to hide him? The James Washington thing was a little different for me. I think maybe the fact that they're if I give you a little credence, it's the fact that maybe they're justifying that number 2 pick, like I mentioned in my first discussion. Mm-hmm. But I really think that they're going to play this guy.
Yeah, I really hope they do, but I don't know that he's going to come out there and overshine Juju and Deontay Johnson and all those guys, because and the way they're making it seem like that's what everyone's talking about, that he's going to be the guy. I don't think he's going to be the guy, but I do think he's going to be hopefully he's an important piece.
He's a guy, not
he's a guy. Yeah,
Dave's grassy.
So he's an a guy.
A guy. Dave's grassy knoll theory there about the media reports.
Hey, why not? Brian's taking all the good answers. Why not come up with the counter answers? I love it.
The funny thing is, to your credit, Dave, there have not been a lot of reports about Deontay Johnson. Now, he has been banged up. He's missed practice. But even when he was healthy, you just didn't hear a lot about him. We've heard James Washington lost weight, that he looks good. Haven't heard much about him there. Juju Smith-Schuster, although he had 2 dadays off last week, he's been relatively quiet. I think this offense still has a lot in store, and you can get little pieces that you kind of feel like, the conspiracy theorist with the bulletin board, and the yarn is just going all over the place. I feel like the pieces are coming together between Ike Hilliard, Matt Canada, their influence on the offense, the versatility they're going to have. And it's just, I think it's going to be good. But Tyler asked this question, since we're talking about Claypool. He said, how many touchdowns do you think for Chase Claypool this year? Brian, we'll start with you.
6.
Well, okay. Dave?
5.
5?
I think 4 of them will be in the second half of the season.
You're all wrong. 7. He's going to be a red zone nightmare for teams. Nice. He's just so big. He's so big. And if you put Ebron on the field as well with Vance, if you do 2 tight ends in the red zone, it gives you options to run, although the Steelers will probably go empty set, in which case they won't have the opportunity to run. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes. A few minutes here before we take our first break. And what else happened this week that maybe struck your fancy, Brian, so to speak, in terms of anything that happened, whether it was an injury, whether it was news that came out about a player, anything at all?
Well, we got cracked on Monday with so many injuries, and it seems like we had a few people coming back in today's practice. It seems like that has subsided a little bit. Doesn't seem like it's something overly too much of a problem. I don't really think that. But one thing that I found really interesting was how much the Steelers like J. Ron Elliott.
Oh, you took my answer.
So how much the Steelers don't like Mark Barron with Mark Barron being in Denver today, because that's something that I predicted all along, and that they'd be coming back. And of course, Bad's wrong a lot, and he was wrong about the Mark Barron thing. So I'm not sure what Dave's going to answer here, but I'm going to give him an opportunity to answer.
Go, Dave.
I've been surprised for a long time that the Steelers didn't have Jaron Elliott in camp, because he was a guy that last year would have been around more, except he had no more practice squad eligibility. He is the kind of guy that they like. He knows their system. And now with the change in the practice squad rules, with up to 6 veterans can be on the practice squad, I'm telling you, that guy's going to be in the practice squad. I actually had said, I think I said it off camera to my brother, that wouldn't be surprised if he got signed to the practice squad, not even being in training camp by the Steelers, because he always kind of liked him. I think Keith Butler likes him, and he'll come in, and he's a good guy to fill in a pinch, and he'd be a perfect guy for that veteran spot there. But I also wanted to bring up that today with Coach Tomlin was being asked about, hey, you signed Jaron Elliott, you let go of your other inside linebacker. You only got 4. You comfortable with him? And he laughed. He's like, I'm not comfortable with anything right now. And he mentioned, and this will be in an article that I have tomorrow, that today Marcus Allen was playing linebacker.
Did you read the practice report on that?
I did not yet, because I had a softball game.
Well, I did. I recorded a little bit earlier our training camp recap podcast, which is only on our audio platform, by the way. So make sure you find us there and listen. The practice report was not good for Marcus Allen being the linebacker Mark Barron type.
Didn't work, did it?
4 straight reps against Benny Snell in an open field tackle situation. 0 tackles. He got abused 3 times. They said that Benny Snell, by the way, is looking good. Kudos to you all on the Benny Snell train. Kudos to you all. But I'll tell you what, I'm not saying that Marcus Allen can't do it. He and Cam Sutton, to me, Cam Sutton's already there.
Yeah.
Marcus Allen could be there in terms of versatility, being able to play multiple positions. They need to find someone that can come down and fill that Mark Barron role. Because it's like I was talking with, and I'll tease the show for Let's Ride Friday morning. If you haven't listened on audio, check it out. I did an interview with Kevin Smith, KT Smith, or Cliff Harris is still a punk from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. And he said, my gosh, you don't want to have Devin Bush on the field as many snaps as Mark Barron. He said, hey, you can't do that with their depth. They got to find someone. And so this might be step number 1. We'll see. But they have a couple guys there. No, UG3 is great, but man, they have no one else, Dave.
No, they don't.
You know who would
Robert
be really
Spillane's
good?
playing with a club on his hand because he broke a finger or a hand or something. He's playing with a club, and they only have 4 guys.
You know who would be a really good Mark Barron type for them to bring in?
Mark Barron?
No. I honestly don't think they should. I honestly don't think they should.
If you watched,
they would have done it. They would have done it already.
You need to see it. I've realized I'm like, when did it come out? Oh, wait, it hasn't come out yet. It's tomorrow. Jeffrey Benedict's film room about the use of other teams, how they use tight ends, and how maybe the Steelers could learn from this and use tight ends the same way. It was a lot of Mark Barron missed this and Mark Barron missed that. So make sure you check that out Friday at BehindTheSteelCurtain.com.
That's right. Shield 91 puts $5 in the tip jar. Says, this is all I can afford this week, but great job on the new audio platform. You all do a great job. It's much appreciated. Thank you for the tip, and thank you for the compliment, Shield. It's a labor of love. I'll say that. Oh, Brad Jewett's in the house. My boy Brad's here. What's up, Brad? All right. What's up, Brian? What are you going to say?
I was just going to say, we're getting all the compliments on the audio platform, and I really appreciate that. One of the greatest compliments we received probably a week into it, that's like, BTSC, you're putting all this stuff on the podcast platform. I no longer have time to download porn. And that's one of the
Someone said that. No, they didn't.
Yes, they did. I saw it. Wait,
I can't remember.
Was it Logan? No, maybe it wasn't. We don't want to say it because they'll get in trouble.
It was a regular. But
if we say the wrong person, and then Kathy tried to claim that it was her.
Yeah,
but we knew it wasn't Kathy.
I don't see Kathy at 2 a.m. So it fit.
Well, yeah, that would fit. That would absolutely. Hey, and let me give a quick shout out before we take our first break to the Jerry Cherry Band, because Jerry Cherry, who is in our live chat on YouTube on occasion, he follows us on Twitter. He is our house music, our house band, as Bryan put it. I think I used 2 of his songs. I used 1 of his songs for your guys' show. It's great. It's great.
Music's good.
It really is good. You should check out his YouTube channel. I'm giving him a shout out. Logan says it wasn't him.
I think it was someone with a blue icon, but I can't remember who it was.
Well,
you know, I mean, I have checked out his YouTube channel. This guy is an incredible guitar player.
Yes.
And he will break down. I mean, I know, Jeff, you like to play the guitar. I know you play more acoustic, but he will take songs like Here I Go Again. And
his cover of Patience by Guns N' Roses is on point.
And I'm a Guns N' Roses snob, and I loved it. And so I will tell you, but he'll take songs and he'll teach you how to play the guitar solo. And he'll break it down into a 10-minute YouTube video. Really good stuff.
Well, during this break, we're going to try to find the user that is not able to watch porn anymore because of our audio platform. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, Steeler fans, welcome back to part 2. I'm Jeff Hartman, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com with Dave Schofield, other co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, and Bryan Anthony Davis, the giggling fool over there as we talked about finding someone that couldn't download porn anymore because we are putting out so much audio content. Hey, Ben talked about his addiction. Someone else can talk about theirs. Before we get to, this is something that Asiatic Noble brings up. I'll bring it up on the screen in a second. Before we get to our linebacker talk, and this is a linebacker, it's kind of can lead us into it. Today, one Mr. Michael Beck, he sent out to our Slack channel the fact that there were supposedly some rumors swirling that the Steelers did their due diligence, using air quotes there, on Jadeveon Clowney potentially coming to the Steelers. And he says, what do you think about the Ravens potentially signing him? Now that Ravens were another team. For some reason, Michael Beck, and he's not here to defend himself, but I'll say it anyways. He was like on board with bringing in Clowney and getting rid of Dupree and somehow getting this, that, and the other. I'm like, what?
Did you read the article?
I feel like no, I didn't. I don't know.
I did look at what he sent because I just wanted to know.
Was it legitimate?
I didn't get to listen to it, and he was even reaching out to the source. I think that, you know how sometimes people that don't really know what's going on with the Steelers throw out ideas that they think the Steelers really should do or that they're going to do.
Yeah.
And you're like, if you understand the Steelers, it's not going to happen. They were basically saying the Steelers need to find someone for whom to trade Bud Dupree so then they have the money to sign Jadeveon Clowney. That is not how the Steelers do business. They don't ship off one of their own in a trade in order to go out and sign a big name of someone who isn't part of the organization. They would much rather have Bud Dupree than they would Jadeveon Clowney if you're talking about the same price. So
in my opinion, he's a lesser player. I mean, tell me, Jadeveon Clowney, in my opinion, was a top draft pick off of one hit. Everyone remembers the hit in college that knocked the guy's helmet off, and then all of a sudden it caught everyone's attention. I don't think that he is, and now you already talked about that Clowney has no clue what to do in the Steelers system. Dupree knows the system. But, you know, it's one of those situations where you're like, oh my gosh, I don't see this. Bryan, what were your thoughts?
Jadeveon Clowney, to me, I agree with you completely. I think he's fool's gold, and he's getting ready to go on to his third team. If teams valued him as much as we value a big name, when I say we, just the masses, the humanoids out there, to quote Bobby the Brain Heenan. But, you know, I just feel that Bud Dupree is a much better player. It took him a long time to come around and get to where he needed to be. But a lot of you forget it took 2.5 to 3 years for Cam Hayward to be Cam Hayward. Where it took for them to design a scheme more fitting for Bud Dupree. And it wasn't a fitting scheme as much when his linebackers coach, outside linebackers coach, was Joey Porter. It seemed like things opened up when Keith Butler was paying more attention to him last year. And we really saw the benefits of him. He is the 14th leading sacker in Pittsburgh Steelers history. And a lot of people don't realize that. Bud Dupree is a lot better than a lot of people think. Do I think he's going to be a Steeler ever again after this year? No, I don't. But I think he's priced out of Pittsburgh, but he's a lot better than Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah, I agree. So,
and
go ahead, Dave.
Dupree, he's more the run stuffer. He really is. He's better than t.j.watt at that part of the game. He is. Right
Really?
now, yeah.
What?
Setting the edge and everything when it comes to the run. Yeah.
TJ's no slouch. I mean,
no. But Bud Dupree is much better at that than what people realize.
Yes.
I'll
agree that. I'll agree that he's better against the run. But
is that he's actually better against the run than a pass rusher, in my opinion.
I got to tell you, last week we were trying to figure out what Dave's middle name was, and it started with a W. I think it's Willis because I'm going to channel my Gary Coleman. What you talking about, Willis?
What do you mean? You don't realize how good of a run defender?
He's not upset about you saying that. He's upset that you're saying he's better than t.j.watt at it.
I'm surprised.
It's really hard to judge when you're talking about. Of course, Bud Dupree's nowhere close to t.j.watt, but you're talking about the thing that Bud Dupree is best at compared to what t.j.watt is probably worst at. And it's not that he's bad at it, but it's hard to judge those two things.
We're not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I don't think that Bud Dupree does anything better than t.j.watt. Period. I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, Bud Dupree is good. I think that t.j.watt being there helps him a lot. I think Cam Hayward being right next to Dupree helps him a lot. Let's get into the linebacker talk. Yeah. Let's do it this way.
We are already.
We are. All right. So we're talking about linebackers. We're talking about inside and outside linebackers and who is the one player that is irreplaceable. That's been the theme the past few weeks. We've gone through positions and now we're on the linebackers, inside and outside. So guys, this is not, in my opinion, a slam dunk because of immediately, I'm sure that most people think of number 90 when they think of someone that they cannot afford to lose. But when you bring in the inside linebackers, I think that changes. So I'm going to go first today. And I'm going to say that I think Devin Bush is the one that you can ill afford to lose. Because not only are they asking him to have the green helmet dot this year and be the communicator, but if he goes down, like we mentioned in part 1, you're screwed. You are screwed. There's 2 positions that if you have injuries, you are screwed. Safety and inside linebacker. UG3 is great, but he is not Devin Bush. They did not trade up 10 spots in the 2019 draft to get UG3. They did that to get Devin Bush because Devin Bush is that good. He is that good. And I think the sophomore jump is what's going to happen with Devin Bush this year, not the sophomore slump. Guys, I understand the value of Watt and Dupree and even Vince Williams in his own right. But to me, 55 is the one guy they cannot afford to lose. He's absolutely most important in that. And in this regard, Dave, what do you think?
Thanks for joining us. Have a good night. Sorry. No. I mean, this is not downplaying t.j.watt or anything like that. I can completely get behind what you're saying because he guess what? Steelers couldn't afford to lose Ryan Shazier several years ago because no one could do what he did.
Or they would have played LJ Ford instead of getting Sean Spence, but whatever.
You know what I mean? Meaning you couldn't afford to lose him because
you're right.
You don't have anyone else. And it's not, and it's, let's just say this. TJ just does what everybody else, TJ does it better than anyone else they have, much better. But it's not like they don't have anyone else that can do it. I don't even know that they have anyone else on the team that can do what they're going to have Devin Bush do. Just like they didn't have anyone on the team that could do what Ryan Shazier did, because you just don't find that many players in the NFL. So yes, you would have an enormous drop off if you're talking about t.j.watt having to then go to the next man up, whether it be Highsmith, Skipper, or Denier, or Jaron Elliott. Anyone else they have there? I'm trying to think if there's another one. Nope. But yeah, I think that's it. But it would be really difficult with Devin Bush because you really wouldn't know who else you had to put in there.
Bryan?
This is a really tough one for me. Now, this is not my answer. Well, let's talk about Robert Spilling. No, I'm kidding. But you know what? This is not my answer. I really think, I'm not saying he's irreplaceable. I'm saying that Vince Williams, and I agree with Sean Manahan, that he's valuable because teams will run all over the Steelers without Vince Williams in there, and they did last year. But that's not my answer. It's really hard to pick between these guys. I think Bud is the most irreplaceable because he's going to have to be. Excuse me, the least irreplaceable. That's what I meant to be.
I was going to say, wait a second. I was going to do a Saved by the Bell timeout in a second.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Bryan has lost his mind. Can we please?
No, so I mean, Bud is the least irreplaceable. I mean,
the
least irreplaceable because they
nothing like a double negative.
Okay, it's not Bud because Bud's going to be replaced. I'm having a hard time choosing between t.j.watt and Devin Bush, and I've got to piggyback on Jeff Hartman, and that's a big piggy to have on your back there, Jeff. But I'm going to say that I think Devin Bush is the guy.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get too. I want to recognize this, bots. We still have it. The $10 donation.
Yes.
Tip jar Felicia, longtime listener. She said, "I miss you guys. Feels like a normal day to have Jeff, BAD, and Dave back. Fine. She evacuated safely from Hurricane Laura, Lake Charles, Louisiana. Love you, Steeler fam. Felicia, we're glad that you're safe
God bless
and
you.
sound, and anyone else that's down there in the Gulf area and or Florida. My gosh, we're praying for you all, and we hope that everyone is safe and that the damage is minimal. We'll put it that way. So, getting back to the linebackers, let's talk about the linebackers a little bit. A couple questions for you guys. Dupree and Watt, bookend pass rushers. In the modern era of Steelers football, where do you rank them amongst the best? Think about Steelers lore. You talk about Green and Lloyd. You talk about Woodley and Harrison. You talk about, I guess you could say Higgins and Porter, maybe. Where are you guys putting them? Bryan, you're the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Well, I have my answer, so you're not going to steal it.
I'm probably going to say right now a third.
Behind?
I always go number one with go number one with Green and Lloyd. I just think they were your number one guys. I go Debo and Woodley at number two, and right now I'm saying number three.
So what separates these guys for you, Bryan? Like when you talk about Green and Lloyd and even Woodley and Harrison, like what is the watermark? What's the differentiation between them?
You know, this is probably a terrible answer, but the reason I go Greg Lloyd and Kevin Green is basically because those guys, Quiver and Quake, they had a persona too. But when one was putting up 14 and a half sacks, the other guy was putting up 11 or 12. And I know that these guys...
That's what Dupree did, and then Dupree and Watt did last year.
They did pretty close to do that, but they were doing it consistently for 3 years. And those guys were just wrecking balls. So when we're comparing them to the Blitzburgh defense, I think they're very close. But those guys carried that team because that wasn't the most spectacular offense back in 1995, but they really made it happen. The reason I go number two, I just thought in 2008, Woodley and Harrison, those guys were unstoppable. The things that Woodley did in the postseason when it became postseason time, that guy, I mean, he was racking up sack after sack. He had multiple sack games for, I think, 3 or 4 games in the postseason. He was just the guy too. And a lot of people talk about James Harrison and the 100 yards. They talk about bend to 10 with 37 seconds left in the game to win that game. But a lot of people forget that who helped win that game too, who helped emphatically end the game, was Lamar Woodley with that strip sack.
Yeah. Okay, Dave, what about you?
By Brett Kiesel.
You held up the 3. You said
yes, I want to put them third because I really feel that, and a lot of this had to do with Dupree, that I really only look at 1 year of greatness for the pair of them. I look at last year. I don't know that I would put them on the same level the year before. Maybe. So I think this year could really elevate these guys. If they give an equal or better year than last year between the two of them, then I think that then you have to have a serious conversation of who would be better than them. But kind of like Bryan said, it's a longevity thing.
Okay, so let's do this. Over under. Sacks for t.j.watt in 2020. 14. Bryan, go ahead.
I'm saying under. I'm saying about 12 to 13.
All right. So step backwards, Dave. What about you?
I'm saying over because he had 14 and a half last year, and I don't think he's going to decrease. I think because he's grown every year, it might only just be 15. But that's why I'll take the over.
What is James Harrison's record?
80.5.
What is it?
No, what is it for a season? Doesn't he hold the single season
16.
sack? 16.
Yeah, that's about 16.
I'm gonna take the
I
over.
apologize.
He's gonna beat that this year because t.j.watt has gotten better every single year. And every time I think, well, this might just be a ceiling. Like this just might be how good t.j.watt is. And if that is how good t.j.watt is, that's great because he's really good. I don't think that's where he's gonna stop. I think he goes over. Okay, over under. Bud Dupree sacks in 2020. 12. Bryan?
Under. I think about 10 or 11.
Do you have both of them stepping backwards?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a huge step backwards when they might be one sack away from.
So what did you say though? You said 11.
Yeah, I'm thinking about 10 or 11 for Bud.
All right, Dave.
I'm going under. I'm going about 10.5. I think he's going to lose out sacks because he's not going to be the first player there. I've talked about this several times, is that sometimes the biggest thing holding back these guys from more sacks is their teammates. They can beat their own guy and they're going to get a sack, but their teammate gets there faster. I think Stephon Tuitt might be the one who takes away sacks from either one of those guys.
Right.
I could see Watt getting to 19 or 20, but I think Tuitt could take away a few of them, and he's still going to go at least what he had last year, if not just a little bit more.
Go ahead, Bryan.
I'd like to say something about Watt as we're still talking about him. I mentioned 80.5 sacks. The guy has been here 3 years, and 80.5 is Debo's record.
Right.
Right now, he has 34.5 sacks. That's an average of
incredible.
11.5 a year. If he gets 11.5 for the next 4 seasons, he ties the record in year number 7.
That's incredible. Well, to James Harrison's defense, he was older, but he didn't play in the league a ton of time. It wasn't like Jason Gilden, who seemed like he was just like around forever, or Bruce Taylor, or not? Yeah, Bruce Taylor, right? No,
Bruce Smith.
Bruce Smith. There you go.
Bruce Taylor is the Bruce Smith and Lawrence Taylor's love child.
Just like Ulysses S. Grant.
Yes. Marcus Gilbert.
Anyways, okay. Another question for you guys. Sticking with the linebackers here. Chase Claypool, we talked in part 1 about how he's been really hyped up. Alex Highsmith has gotten a lot of pub as well. He's gotten a lot of hype. I've been shocked. I didn't expect this guy to do anything other than play special teams. You had Ola Adeniyi, you had Tuzar Skipper as your primary backup outside linebackers. Highsmith would need a year anyways, and he would just play special teams. And maybe he fills that Tyler Matakevich role on special teams, and he's like a demon out there. Now all of a sudden you got Keith Butler saying, we think this kid will actually play. Like we think he's actually going to see snaps. t.j.watt, he was interviewed. He said the kid's doing a great job, but we can't play the whole game. We can see him. So here's a couple questions for you guys. A, do you think that Highsmith sees the field with any regularity as a backup, maybe a la Anthony Chickalo, his role? And B, do you think that if Highsmith does fill that role, who's the odd man out? I don't see them keeping 5 outside linebackers. So Dave, we'll start with you.
I have said it all along, and I got ridiculed at times that I thought that Highsmith was drafted to be an upgrade of Anthony Chickalo. Mm-hmm. And I got blasted saying he can't be an upgrade because he's never played an NFL snap. It doesn't mean anything. I'm like, well, then you're telling me Anthony Chickalo is better than Chase Young, and that's just ridiculous. I don't even remember who I had this conversation with, but I know it was with someone. But that's what I felt that he was brought in for. I think being that 3rd round pick, he's going to have, I kept saying he will have every opportunity to be the number 1 backup outside linebacker, which means he will see snaps. And I think that he will. And I honestly would not be shocked. I think they keep 5 outside linebackers because I think they're only going to keep 4 inside linebackers, and they keep 9. So they might not all be active on game day, but I still think they keep all 5.
So so in your scenario, who is it, Skipper or Adeniyi that has a helmet on game day? If we're giving it to Highsmith, we know he's, let's say, 3rd on the depth chart, which would be shocking to me. Who you got to think Adeniyi has the edge.
I think it would be Adeniyi because he would be able to take he's actually taken defensive snaps for the Steelers in regular season, which Skipper hasn't even dressed for a regular season game.
Yeah.
But if they feel confident with Highsmith, remember that year they went with only 3 outside linebackers the whole season. It was crazy. But if they feel that Skipper gives them more on special teams, which I don't know that he does or he doesn't, and someone's going to get dinged up even as a reserve guy. So I'd give the edge to Adeniyi, but with all the information we're getting out of training camp, it makes it so easy to decide.
Yeah. Don't get me started on that. I did a whole show on it. Bryan, what are your thoughts on Alex Highsmith?
Well, first of all, what Dave said as far as the odd man out, I still think they're going to keep 5, just like Dave said. But if anybody is not getting ahead, I really don't think it's Skipper. As far as Highsmith, why would they not be hyping up somebody that's a good player, that is really shining? Because there's no eyes on these guys. So, I mean, are we really worried about what Bill Belichick is thinking, who the only time that you might see him is in the playoffs? Are we really worried about intel? Because, there's intel everywhere. If you drafted somebody and you're proud of who you drafted, you're going to talk about them. And they are, I don't think, it's not like that movie Dave from 1993 with Kevin Kline, where the president was, they were putting out $20 million to make people feel better about the car I don't see what.
That's Bryan's 7th reference to the movie Dave in 2020.
Oh, okay.
Keeping track. Okay, just making sure.
To make people feel better about their car. They don't need to make people feel better about the drafting of Alex Highsmith, is what I'm saying. But what they need to do is they need to hype up the guys that they think are playing well, and I don't think it's a smokescreen. I think they like what they have in them, and they're announcing, hey, we've got some players. You can count us out all you want, but we're telling you, we drafted well.
I think that Dave shares my frustration with not the fact that they're hyping these guys up, but the fact that every bit of news that we, the fans, get, it seems so generic. There's nothing natural about the news. I can't speak for Dave, but I'll speak for myself in regards to you have no one-on-one exclusives, even from a secondhand site like behindthesteelcurtain.com, meaning I always use the analogy of, let's say, Joe Rutter of the Tribune Review is standing at St. Vincent College and Marcus Allen's walking up the hill and he goes, "Hey, Marcus, can I have a word?" "Sure." And he walks over and he gets an interview. And he's the only one that gets that interview because no one else was waiting for him. You have nothing like that now. And so the Steelers are just getting these stock interviews that come through. Dave, is that what you're talking about, kind of your frustration, or am I?
Yeah. I mean, how can we have have you heard anything about Ola Adeniyi, who's our skipper? I have.
Ola Adeniyi early in camp, Tomlin did say he came in.
It was some backers I saw.
He came in good shape, good condition. That's it. That's all we've heard.
Let me jump in real quick. You know where I get all my training camp information? His name is Jeff Hartman, and it's on the BTSC family of podcasts on any streaming platform. Hey, really, I don't have time in the day to do everything that I need, so I make sure that I'm listening to Jeff to find these things out. So kudos to Jeff.
It's funny, but it's really true. It really.
He's not the only person that's told me that. I've had people on Instagram, my Instagram account, and on Twitter say, "We really like those training camp updates. We don't have time to read all the articles, so we just listen to your podcast. It's like 10 to 15 minutes, and then that's it. We get what we need to know, and we move on with our lives." So
still check out the website though, too.
Yeah. Well, whatever, sure, website thing. Yeah. Okay. All right. Trivia time. We have about 7 minutes. Let's do this, Dave. You ready?
Yeah.
Hold on, Dunce cap. It's on. We're
okay.
Good.
Now, this one is courtesy of my brother. It was a conversation we had after we finished filming the Scrobro show on Tuesday, something we were talking about. It was, you talk about, because it was the news of Bill Nunn, which is, I didn't realize at the time he was the only contributor nominated. It's not that he's one of, and he's the only one nominated. And as I keep saying, I don't care who you are. If you know anything about Bill Nunn, there is no way you can't vote for him. That's why I'm saying, put your money on it. He's going in the Hall of Fame this year. But we were talking about the great drafts, and we were looking at that, talking about that historic 1974 draft, where the Steelers drafted 4 Hall of Famers and picked up an undrafted free agent that's going in the Hall of Fame, and Donnie Shell. They had 21 draft picks in that draft.
Oh my gosh.
Through 17 rounds, and still got Donnie Shell after the fact. I mean, Rich was the one who brought this up. Their 17th round draft pick was pick number 437, and it was Larry Moore, defensive end out of Angelo State, that they took over Donnie Shell. But we were talking about that with Bill Munn. After the show, we got to looking, and we're like, look at that 1975 draft. So here's the question. The 1975 draft, following the greatest draft of all time, how many starts did for the Steelers were combined from all the players drafted in 1975?
Can you say that again?
From all the players the Steelers drafted in 1975, how many combined starts did they have for the Steelers?
How many players were drafted?
There were 21 players drafted.
Good, Brian, you can guess.
I'm going to go on the line and say 0 because their number one pick was a guy, Dave Brown, who ended up in the Seahawks Ring of Honor, who they left unprotected in the expansion draft, and he never really played. And that expansion draft was, I believe, in '76. So I don't remember too many guys from the 1975 draft. So I'm going to say none.
It's going to be more than none.
Starts?
So starts in that season or starts in their career?
In their career for Pittsburgh.
I'll say 120.
How about none from Brian Anthony Davis?
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yeah.
Not one.
Not one. That just goes to show you they follow up the greatest draft of all time with the draft of 21 players, none of which ever started a game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That just goes how remember that when everyone thinks they
didn't have one player out of 21 picks. The only
player that came close or did absolutely anything was 14th round pick Mike Collier, who had 3 touchdowns.
Wow. There you go. And all I've got to say is Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Whoa!
Their 4th round pick didn't even play an NFL game.
Oh, so you said starts, right?
Yeah, starts. No starts.
That's right. Okay, I got a little confused. I thought you were talking about games played. No. Yeah, okay. That's fine. Still crazy stat. Brian, what do you have for us?
All right. In 1997, the Pittsburgh Steelers changed their uniforms and changed their numbers. And everybody knows they went from the block numbers to the rounded numbers. And that's
italicized.
Is that what they're calling italicized? Yeah. Well, I don't love them, but they did that. But they made another change to the uniform that year that happened that year, but it was only for one season. And it was to the away jerseys. What did they do?
They made one change. Oh, they had I know the answer. Do you know, Dave?
No, I was going to take a random guess, but I'd rather hear
they changed the colors of the lettering on the back.
Yeah. Absolutely correct. They were.
I remember watching Jerome. Black. I remember watching Jerome Bettis running and seeing Bettis in black. I'm like, what in the heck is that?
I knew it had outlining, whether the numbers or the names or whatever. I knew that's what
the names on the away jerseys have always been outlined in black.
Mm-hmm.
But then that didn't change. It was just black. There was no outlining in gold or anything.
Yeah.
That come to think of it, that might actually look pretty cool if it was black with gold outlining. But they didn't do that.
I tell you what, I'm watching right now the Steelers and Patriots from 1997 for our upcoming retro show. And I'm watching, I'm like, that is so weird. And I remember buying my Bettis jersey that year and realizing afterwards, like the next year I'm looking at it like, did I buy an aftermarket jersey? Did they mess this up? But I bought it from the Steelers store. So I thought it was a mistake. And I didn't remember that they went completely to black letters. So
can I say something about your retro show, please? How do you, because I listened to it and at the end, you're like, next week we're going to go to the New England. I'm like, wait a second, what? How do you not go to Tennessee the following game after the Cleveland win in the snow? How do you not follow that big win up with the disappointing loss in Nashville with the Nedney flop that he said after the game I should get an Oscar for that act job? Yeah, Dwayne Washington. Still, I'm like, how do you not follow up with that?
Well, the reason I don't follow up with it because we're jumping all around and we're having fun with it, and I really don't want to do losses right now.
I honestly, though, when I was listening to your show, I was in the gym and I was reliving that game. I still remember that game so vividly of that 2002. I mean, they looked so bad in the secondary. They couldn't cover anyone. Hank Poteet.
Kelly Scott broken hand.
Kelly Holcomb was literally just dropping dimes left and right. Randwell's fumbling and then returning them for touchdowns. That was one of the most crazy back and forth games. And you said it best when you said fans got left Heinz Field, tried to get back in, and they said, no, you're not getting back in.
Well, thanks for listening, Jeff. I appreciate that.
I listen to all your shows. Dave's Stat Geek and the Retro Show. It's good stuff. It's absolutely good stuff. Here's a question for you guys to finish up the show. Not a trivia, just a question. If you had to pick one throwback jersey that the Steelers have worn in the modern era that is your favorite, which is it and why? And the color rush is not a throwback, by the way. That's an alternative uniform. So it's not a throwback, Dave.
No,
Dave,
I wasn't going to say that.
Okay. What would you say is your favorite, Dave?
The Bumblebee.
Favorite. So
I love the Bumblebee jersey. Don't like the dirty baby diaper pants that they have to wear with it. I wish they didn't have to go.
You have to say like Jake from State Farm khakis.
Yeah. I wish they wouldn't even care about being a pure throwback and mix those jerseys with different pants. They would be exquisite. But
so
I love those jerseys. Love the Bumblebees. Right.
And you have one.
Do
you have one?
Technically, I still do, but it's retired. It's in the corner of shame. Yes.
Okay. Gummy Richards.
Gummy Richards.
Brian, what about you? Favorite throwback?
I am with Dave. I love the Bumblebees. I still want them to go to the Batmans one of these days, but I don't think they're ever going to do it. What? And I own a t.j.watt Batman right now. But the Bumblebees, Dave is right. If they would have went with black pants, they would have been absolutely amazing. I love those socks. I loved everything about those jerseys. I own one. I did own one, and it was an Antonio Brown, and I donated it to the Purple Heart Foundation along with my Le'Veon Bell jersey because I don't burn them, but I was just mad. I'm like, why didn't I do that? Because now I don't have a Bumblebee. So now I'm looking at getting another Bumblebee. Yeah,
Brian, I need to donate mine to the Boy Scouts of America so they could have some more material for a tent because that's what it takes to have a jersey that fits me.
Well, Brian, first, I'm surprised you didn't pick I think you have a Darmani Dawson with the city crest on it. I'm surprised you didn't pick that one. I'm surprised you didn't pick that one.
Why didn't I do that? I love those jerseys. That crest was pretty awesome. Okay, I changed that. Cool. Unless that's yours, Jeff. I changed it.
I want to see the Batman.
Mine, I loved the yellow helmets with the block numbers. That was the first time that they went back to block numbers after they went to italicized. And there's one game in particular, and I know we're going a little long, but who cares? There's one game in particular that will always stick out of my mind that I will never forget for the rest of my life. It was a regular season game, but it was the 35-0 thrashing at halftime of the Ravens on Monday Night Football. And they wore those uniforms, and that was the game that Ed Reed Ed Reed got laid out by James Harrison on a punt return in those uniforms. And those were always awesome. I loved how they had the special helmets for it. I actually like the white pants. I thought that was a great look. Those are my favorite. So there you go.
All right, I'm with you there. I do like those.
Everyone can have their own. You don't have to agree with me.
I like it. I like everything. I have a Mike Wallace one of those, and that's the only one of those that I have.
Do you guys really think they should go back to the block numbers? In all seriousness,
absolutely.
They look a little bit like Iowa's uniforms now when they go back to that. Like when I look for an image for the website and I see one of the block numbers, like, it kind of looks like Iowa's uniforms. I don't know. I've kind of grown accustomed to the italicized.
No, I want them back bad.
The color rush because they're block numbers. I like the block numbers.
Well, did you get a throwback of the regular traditional block numbers?
Do I have one?
Yeah.
No, my wife has one.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Juju.
Yep.
So there you go. All right, guys. Anything else for the good of the order before we call it a show?
Check out all of our podcasts on the family of podcasts. Tomorrow morning, Let's Ride with Jeff Hartman. Then in the evening, it's the live mic. And don't forget about Tony, Steelers Brunch with Tony on Saturday. And we'll do some Tales from 2 a.m. maybe on Sunday morning.
There you go. Dave, anything else?
Make sure you're going to BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. We've got all kinds of commentary, film breakdown, breaking news, reports from various interviews. We're bringing it all to you as best as we can. So make sure you're checking it out.
They're not the best color guys in the league for nothing, folks. I'm Jeff Hartman for Dave Schofield and Brian Anthony Davis. We'll see you next week on another episode of the Steelers Preview. Take it easy, everyone.